Well, more tensions on this Friday evening between Israel and Iran. Sanctions imposed by the United States and other countries on Iran are starting to have a deep impact for the people. 74 million who live in the country, and many now finding it more and more difficult to have access to food and money. Meanwhile, two senior U.S. officials have confirmed to NBC News that the People's Mujahideen of Iran, a dissident group known also as MEK, worked in conjunction with the Mossad, Israel's national intelligence agency, in carrying out the assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists. Now, the MEK is listed in the United States official terrorist group list, though the group has been removed from the terrorist list in the UK and the European Union. Now, to talk about this relationship, the rising tensions, and what many now view as the pretext for war, let's go to Max Blumenthal, a writing fellow with the Nation Institute. Max, let's talk first about this relationship between the Mossad and the MEK and whether or not you think this is significant.
This is absolutely significant. And the reason it's significant is because these stories are tumbling out in the mainstream press in the United States about Israel using terrorist groups, terrorist proxies, to attack Iran, to carry out what the Federation of American Scientists call terrorist attacks inside Iran. Before this story, we had a story by Mark Perry in Foreign Policy about Israeli Mossad officers posing as CIA officers, conducting a false flag operation to use members of the Pakistani Jundullah terrorist group to carry out assassinations inside Iran. Perry's sources were absolutely solid. His story was not challenged by anyone in the United States. And now we have a story by NBC's chief Middle East correspondent, Richard Engel, quoting U.S. intelligence officials, meeting people in the CIA who are clearly furious about what the Israeli Mossad is doing, confirming that Israel has used the Marxist Islamic terror cult, the People's MEK, to carry out assassinations inside Iran, acts that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has sought to distance the United States from. So we have a situation where the U.S. is in conflict with Israel, and at the center of it is this bizarre terror cult.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you sort of connect the dots here because, and you know, I should say there are people in Iran who believe the CIA is involved, but as a member of the terrorist list here, the CIA cannot be involved, cannot be working with the MEK. So if you do have, you know, connecting the dots to Israel working with the MEK and the CIA doing whatever over here, but certainly wanting to maintain that strong relationship with Israel, it seems there could be some problems ahead.
Absolutely. In the United States, at least the intelligence community in the United States and the diplomatic corps seems to want nothing to do with this group because this group worked with Saddam Hussein, carried out attacks on Americans, carried out attacks on Iranians while it was the control of Saddam Hussein, and therefore has no credibility inside Iran. And it's not a legitimate dissident group, so it's something the U.S. wouldn't want to get behind. But at the same time, this group is paying major figures in the United States, a bipartisan coalition, former Homeland Security Director Tom Ridge, former FBI Director Louis Freeh, former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, former Democratic presidential candidate Howard Dean, Alan Dershowitz, the high-powered pro-Israel trial lawyer. All these figures have been paid to shill on behalf of the People's MEK, which is now confirmed as a terror organization. And what they're doing is trying to get it removed from the State Department terrorist list. So the question is, if these figures say it's not a terrorist organization just because they're being paid to, and I'm not sure where the money's coming from, does it mean that it's really not a terror organization? Is this just not terrorism?
I think it's a good question, and certainly, at least here in D.C., the commercials are often on TV, on various channels about taking the MEK off the list and the importance of that, and I always wondered myself sort of where that money was coming from. Max, I spent a lot of yesterday at CPAC here in Washington, the Conservative Political Action Conference, and listened to several of the speakers there, Marco Rubio, Michelle Bachmann, and as you can imagine, there was a lot of talk about Israel, the importance of the relationship with Israel, and why President Obama is a really bad friend to Israel and it was even said by one person, sort of a friend to Iran in some ways. Talk a little bit about this new information coming out and how it sort of changes the political chessboard and how it sort of plays into politics in Washington as well.
I'm not sure if the new information changes anything. I mean, what we're just seeing is a sustained campaign in which President Obama is being attacked as an enemy of Israel, and deep, deep immersion by the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and his proxies in this presidential campaign, because Netanyahu's goal is to overthrow two regimes, one in Tehran, the other in Washington. He wants to overthrow Barack Obama and replace him with someone like Mitt Romney, who surrounded himself with neoconservatives who want to attack Iran, carry out what Israel wants to do but probably can't do. So there is a shadow war going on. Israel is a partisan wedge issue. It's being used as a culture war issue, like abortion or gay marriage, to attack the president. And the goal is regime change in Iran. And one of the key proxies in this is Sheldon Adelson, the multi-billionaire backer of Newt Gingrich, who may soon shift to backing Mitt Romney. Sheldon Adelson is one of Netanyahu's closest friends. He owns a newspaper that backs Netanyahu in Israel, Israel Hayom. He's funded several think tanks that provide Netanyahu with advisors. And I want to know, has Netanyahu had any discussions with Sheldon Adelson during this campaign? That's really the key question that the American media should be asking and isn't asking.
Following that money there, that always leads to some pretty interesting answers, as we know. Let's talk a little bit about sort of this geopolitical chessboard that we're experiencing right now. New today, I believe, India has become, by the way, the #1 gasoline or oil consumer from Iran. India now saying they want to get involved, they want to send people into Iran. India, often a good friend to the U.S. So connect some other dots sort of around this initial story regarding the Mossad and the MEK, and talk a little bit about bigger issues here regarding the U.S. and Iran and what you imagine we could be seeing in the coming weeks.
Well, there are a lot of regional proxies the United States could work through to pursue a diplomatic track. Instead, what the United States has done and President Obama's done is he's been forced into one sanctions regime after another. The next thing they want to do is sanction the telecommunications industry, which would, according to proponents, those who are lobbying for these sanctions in Washington, cause catastrophic effects on the Iranian economy. So what they've been forced to do is basically attack and wage economic warfare and terror on the Iranian middle and working class, sanctions that are doing nothing to stop Iran's nuclear program. And the diplomatic track is the only answer. The P5+1 initiative was about to take place, Turkey taking the lead right before this assassination inside Iran of the scientists that we're talking about. So clearly, Israel wanted to foil these negotiations. Israel will do whatever it takes to foil negotiations. It's the same thing they've done with the Palestinians for decades. And this is the danger. Every time negotiations come up, we see one of these kind of terror attacks. So the next, throughout this election campaign, it's a very dangerous time, and one of the only responses Barack Obama has to get the Republicans off his back is to pass more sanctions, which damage the Iranian middle class and hurt the American economy.
That's right. There's certainly a lot of talk that sort of causing pain to the people will bring the leaders back to the bargaining table. That doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon, though. Max Blumenthal, writing fellow at the Nation Institute.
Thanks for having me.